You're all set.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Shorts Block 4. My name is Sam Reitz, and I am going to moderate this section. I am the founder of a story engine called Millennial Ethics, and we focus on generational portraits of global systems. It's so important, though, to give credit to our sources of inspiration. So special thank you to Susie and Patrice for putting together an amazing slate of truly inclusive films featuring a wide array of artists committed to emphasizing female voices in the media ecosystem. So without further ado, let me introduce you to an incredible slate of short content. Today's chat is going to be broken down into 3 different parts: the creative, the technical, and the societal. So I hope you all have gotten a chance already to see some of this content. If you haven't, the festival still goes until October 4th. But to kick things off, joining me today are a bunch of women of will who use fiction for impact. Many of your works across genres to craft stories that say something. So if you could tell us a little bit about your background each and what inspired your short stories. Would Christina, you like to kick things off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Reyea. I directed and produced Affliction. Kelsey was the writer of it. She can introduce herself in a bit. Yeah, so we run a production company called Congested Cat Productions, and we tend to make socially conscious horror and comedy usually. This film isn't exactly either of those things. I would say it has some horror elements, but it's really a drama. It's kind of like a chilling drama. And we like to sort of explore social structures or social issues through a genre lens, because I think that makes the topics that are hard to talk about more accessible and kind of easier to like break down and dissect. And Kelsey can talk about the inspiration for this particular film.
Sure. I'm Kelsey Rauber. As Christina said, we have a production company together, and we do this weekly, or we try to do it weekly, writing group. And I think to most of us, also writing is like a type of therapy too. So I was struggling with the conversations I was having with progressive-minded people as well around consent, and just how it seems like such a difference in like the gray area for some versus others. And it was really frustrating me. And I was just thinking, our bodies are so strong and they have changed over the years. And what if our bodies were suddenly like, you know what, no more, this is not okay. And they started fighting back in a way that would make it less black and white, less gray in terms of if you'd been violated or not. And so I wrote a first draft and brought it to writing group, and then Christina helped a lot in like paring it down to like the moment that the short ends up being.
Very cool. Robin, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Robin Cloud. I'm the writer and director of $2, which is a queer workplace comedy. I like to describe it as a love letter to the artist who has to work a shitty day job, which I've had many. And the story was just inspired by the many hours I would spend fantasizing about how I would destroy whatever present office I was in and take revenge on all of my shitty coworkers. And instead of doing that in real life, I made some art about it instead. So that's pretty much it. I have a production company called Cloud Creative Media, and I'm based in Los Angeles, and I work on primarily like Black, queer, dark comedy content.
Poppy, would you like to go next?
Okay, is my mic working?
It is. We can hear you great.
Thank you. My computer was like spitting out on me at the wrong moment.
Oh, I totally get it.
My name is Poppy Gordon, and I'm the director and co-writer of For Your Consideration.
You want to tell us a little bit about the premise, just so we can all
Okay,
quickly.
yeah, sure. See, I missed the first part, so I'm catching up now.
No worries.
The premise of the film is pretty much a few ladies that all come across as quite privileged get together at a members only club in Hollywood. They're all involved in the film industry in some way or form, you know, probably given their parents. So there's a degree of nepotism involved. And they've noticed that all the films that tend to do really well and win awards and Oscars are ones that deal with people that are less privileged than they are, and are kind of concerning themselves with a marginalized group of some sort that is contending with challenges that they are not. And so they try and game the system to also have a chance at winning awards and getting into festivals, and try and figure out which marginalized group might have it the worst at the current moment in time, so that they can use that as their subject matter to make a movie about and win awards.
Maxie?
Hey guys, so I'm Maxie. I made the music video Dream for my band duo Mick and Maxie, and it was kind of an accident. I wasn't supposed to make it. Like, I'm sure you all have the experience in the past of like, you're the only one who's gonna make it, so you have to make it. And that's like the story of all my shorts and films and everything. So we kind of came together and created this idea that especially as women getting older in the industry, as actors, as musicians, whatever, there's kind of this pressure to give up if you're not still fitting that Barbie doll Instagram model mold anymore, or slide into the shadows and, you know, be the behind the scenes work. So we just had a very simple narrative of, you know, being bored out of our skulls in this picture perfect lifestyle, and then waking up and breaking out of it. Our alter egos come in as rock stars and just trash the entire place and leave it behind. And what's funny is the inspiration for the music video was just our own kind of our view of ourselves. But then when we went to production for making it, it became clear that our camera person helping us, who had told my singer, I was like, I'm too busy, I can't make this, get someone else, and I'll just go along with whatever. But the person she had contacted hadn't developed the idea at all, didn't really have a clear vision for it, didn't really get a grasp of who we were. So then last minute, Mick and I were putting together our video, and it became like us two ladies having to take matters into our own hands so that it would come out great instead of being this boring thing. And we're like, wow, there's really this double thing happening here where we're living our freaking narrative. So yeah, that's, if you get a chance to watch it, that's kind of what you'll notice.
Awesome. Constance, would you like to go next?
Sure. Constance Hilton. I directed and wrote Mute. So Mute I actually adapted from a short story by Stephen King, because I'm not comfortable at all with the writing process. I've worked for about 10 years as a boom operator in Toronto. So I'm very comfortable with being on set and working in that environment. But the actual like writing and creating something from scratch is pretty foreign to me. But I adapted this short story as sort of my first attempt at directing something. And I really kind of clicked with the story, because I think it deals with like, whose stories do you trust? Sometimes based on fairly superficial reasons. So, you know, whose narrative do you trust or not trust? Kind of from the start, based on looking at somebody.
Kira, please. Would you like to
Yes, hi, can you hear me still?
Yes, we can hear you.
Still technical nervousness there, anxiety. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Kira Seipler. I am a producer, director, screenwriter of Jaska Road Productions. And it's quite interesting. I was looking back at all the films that we've done, and they tend to have a female protagonist, which was quite accidental. So I guess that's something that I'm very proud of. Blind Spot came out of a collaboration with TK Johnson, who is a talented director of photography from Seattle. And he wrote this piece about a toxic relationship between a young man and woman. And it really explores the uncomfortable aspects of any relationship of where does your instinct take you? Do you listen to it? And what are the consequences when you don't listen to your own instincts? So I think that's something that I think a lot of people can, especially women, I think, get lost in the narrative of I want to make this relationship work, even if it means going against my own standards, my own gut instinct. So I really enjoyed the process with TK. He is a phenomenal writer and filmmaker. And I really appreciated how he included me in the writing process. He didn't need to, but it was very important to him that the female voice was clear and it was realistic. And he really fought for having a female crew, as did I. So all the keys are female, and he just really honored that. So of course I'll support that. But yeah, it was a very uncomfortable process for me personally, because I think we all have that part of us that you want to make everybody happy. And I think that's what we do as filmmakers, is that you have to explore the uncomfortable for those really good stories.
I couldn't agree more. Sati, last but not least, please.
Hi, everyone. It is so great to be in fellowship with all of you and be part of this. Just so happy to see all these women, and I can't wait to watch everybody's films. So I'm Sati. I'm here with Blood and Glory. I'm the writer and director. Blood and Glory is the story about the friendship between two homeless veterans, and they're both women. And the story takes place over the course of one day as they try to, as their dreams for a better life get derailed because one of them has her period and she doesn't have access to tampons or pads. And so it's kind of like this spiraling impact that has on the protagonist getting a job that could change their lives. And the inspiration for this film came from, so I used to be in the military. I'm an Army veteran. When I came back from the military, transitioning to civilian life is always challenging because you're leaving one intense environment and coming back, especially when I came back from Iraq back in 2006. The country was kind of sleeping, like nobody really was even thinking that there's a war going on, and all of that. But I was lucky. I had a family, I had a community who supported me. I had access to resources, but that's not the case for a lot of women who leave the military. And one day, so I live in LA, I'm not there right now, but I used to volunteer on Skid Row with this organization called Monday Night Mission. And one night while we were serving food, I saw this woman walking by, and she had her dog tags and her Army combat boots, and I could tell that she was a veteran. And clearly she was living on the streets. And when she walked past me, I saw this gigantic period stain on her back. And that image just devastated me, because up until then, I hadn't really thought about what other women's experiences were, especially female veterans in LA. Like, we have one of the higher rates of women ending up homeless. So that image kind of became the fuel for writing the story. And then we were lucky enough to have our lead actress, Jo Marla, who is also a Navy veteran. And some of the challenges that you see in the film were also her own personal experiences. And so the script went through many drafts, through many different competitions and writing workshops. And we made the film through Women in Media. They're an incredible organization. They gave us all the resources to make the film and a lot of mentorship. And so, yeah, so I'm excited to share it with the world.
Oh, it's so exciting to get to speak with all of you and hear a little bit more about your process and what inspired you. So my next question is really about imagery. So much of your content was so imagery driven, and imagery can be so vital in informing story and shaping the narratives that we choose to tell. So that can be from your shot list, from how you craft your script, to production design and soundtrack even. How did some of the more technical elements inform and craft the story tapestries that each of you built? If some of you could speak to that process, it would be great to hear your insights.
I guess I'll speak for the music video because I feel like I'm cheating. You all are doing the hard work with the audio, and music video is like the easiest thing ever because you just lay the song over, which is great. So I feel like we went down to really, really basic storytelling with the visuals because we didn't have to mess with anything else coming into it and signaling, you know, so we just had very black and white kind of before after matching shots of perfect world, destroyed world, and in between was the fun and games montage of us.
Why so much pink?
World. Why so much pink?
Yeah, why so much pink? I saw the live colorfully, but I loved it. I loved the kind of like the pink neon production design that was kind of pervasive throughout the entire content. What inspired that backdrop? Was that just your idea when you thought of perfection, or the contrast?
Yeah, we're not trying to put down pink. We're not trying to put down femininity, but we were looking for what would read immediately as the most conventional version of society's expectation for a woman right now. And in downtown LA, there's so many, I'm sure you guys have seen, like venues for rent that you can film out of. And we saw that one that was just literally Instagram models rent it out. Some of you are nodding, so you know what I'm talking about. Instagram models rent them out by the hour to just go take cute pictures. And we're like, we have to destroy the mecca of the Instagram models. That's just, couldn't get more perfect.
That's awesome. I'll go next.
Oh, please.
Yeah, so when Tika and I were putting together a lookbook, I'm a very visual person. That's what helps me to communicate to the team. 3 films stood out to us. It was Revolutionary Road, The Quiet Place, and Nightcrawler. So for us, it was about accentuating the silence and the quiet pauses between those times you don't talk. The suspense of being in that car and there's a conversation that's going on, but no words are being spoken. Just really exploring the tension between a relationship. So we were really blessed with a sound designer from Seattle, Brian Bidding, who really capitalized on all of that. Even down to the radio station, which I was really proud to say that my husband, his voice is on the radio playing that punk song. That's actually him singing. And it was just a reminder of all the rage that happens in a relationship. But the words aren't being spoken between the two characters. So again, just really capitalizing on the simplicity of quiet and the tension that comes along with it, as opposed to all the production, which my fellow producer, Macy, sorry, she and I collaborated on the production design. So a lot of that was a little cluttered to kind of show the noise that's in the relationship. So it was quite a fun process, actually. And I was really blessed to have a team that could help us out.
No, very interesting. Sati, you had a really beautiful shot at the end of your film, where it definitely a depth of field shot with the American flag, and in depth of field you had your 2 lead characters kind of connecting over, like you were saying, the idea of using the American flag, not to give too much plot away, but using the American flag as a pad because of the lack of sanitary resources available to homeless women. Do you want to speak to a little bit to kind of how you set up that shot? Because it was such a beautiful closing and such strong imagery.
Yeah, we had so many conversations around, do we show a cut up American flag or not? Do we just show her handing the pad and assume that it was the flag that we saw earlier? Or do we actually show it cut up, and how people might respond to it because, you know, in this country, the flag is very holy, you know. And so my DP, our directing mentors, we had several conversations about that. And then we decided, and the other thing is we wanted the film to be used for impact, so as a resource for advocacy. So one of the things we were worried about is if having that shot and how controversial it can be will take away from that. But I'm so happy for the team that I have, because out of all of our conversations, we realized that we just have to show it, because that one image captures the way veterans are being treated, how they're kind of invisible, and especially female veterans. No one thinks about female veterans whatsoever, right? Like none of the mainstream films are about us. When you think about who is serving overseas, the image of a hero, it's never women, and especially not women of color. And so we decided to set up that shot. The shot itself, you know, the location is incredible. We shot by the LA River, if you haven't seen the film. And the location allowed for us to, you know, there's a beautiful fence, the river is down there. I mean, it just came together so beautifully after we had these conversations.
So my next question for everyone is focused on language. And Robin, I'd love if you could kick us off, but language we know matters, not just how we say things or the way things are said, but also the context that we build around it. And it's essentially the nuance of lived experience. And one of the things, the sense of directional phrasing was really pervasive in a lot of your content. But Robin, some of the phrasing that I thought really spoke to me was, you gotta have money to spend money to make money. Try a little gloss. Who you are, who are you living for? And then some of the more kind of, shall we say, cultural critiques, which are, I donate to BLM and too gay for big money buildings. I thought that language was super powerful. So if you could speak a little bit to the phrasing that you emphasized in your short, and kind of how the soundtrack really helped to drive that narrative forward.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's really fun to hear you say those lines out of context.
It was great.
Because you kind of forget like what you've written. Yeah, I think those are, I'm a ear hustler, you know, so I do a lot of listening. I lived in New York for 20 years. And when I was taking acting classes very early on, when I wanted to be an actor, you know, our acting teacher said, just listen to people. Whenever you're out, listen to conversations. And so I think a lot of my writing is from overhearing all of these different phrases that I've heard from people over the years that have sort of stuck with me. And yeah, you got to have money to make money, to get money. Like, I don't know who said that, but it's just something that stuck with me. And I tried to give each character definitive lines, little definitive catchphrases that help to, you know, identify them. And, you know, the lip gloss is just, I don't know, that scene, it's just torturous.
We'll talk a little bit about the social construct at the end, but I thought it was great. Poppy, similarly, I would say you used comedy as such a vehicle for the Hollywood formula, shall we say, of the inherent hypocrisy in the process. So you using phrases like covering all of our bases, or what if she was ethnic? Wait, is that racist? We're just following a formula. The kind of exaggerated truths, and comedy being such a great vehicle to shed light on some of those inherent truths of the system and implicit bias. I would love to hear a little bit about your approach to comedy and why you chose that language and that framing.
Sure. So actually, I was more trained by the European School of Cinema and much more like Claire Denis, Catherine Breillat, like very slow moving European films with very little dialogue. And that's always what I kind of thought, like the direction that I was going to go in, and making a comedy was really the last thing on my mind to to do something like that. Though I do love the works of like dark comedies like Todd Solondz, you know, Robert Altman, those works, you know, the film, you know, Woody Allen, you know, speaks to me, but it wasn't really on my mind. But given, I think, just how I felt at the time, wanting to make a short film, wanting to contend with my medium, which is a very capitalist medium, in a very in this current kind of cultural moment, which was a year and a half ago at the time, or 2 years ago, I started writing it about. And so it was really a kind of, it wasn't so much me trying to be funny as much as me trying to just genuinely contending with our culture and genuinely contending with wanting to make a short in a system that I felt like was quite rigged in terms of how the cultural gatekeepers were making decisions and who they were giving a voice and who they were letting in. My film is called For Your Consideration because it was very much kind of like aimed at what do we award in our society, given the Oscars,
Right.
what do programmers let in? Why do they let it in? Who gets a seat at the table? And so, obviously, a lot of the issues that I brought up in the film have become more and more urgent I was kind of noticing it and bringing it up and thinking, great, I'm going to spend all my savings on a movie that nobody's going to let in because it attacks festivals. So that's going to be great. And then moving forward, I'm not the only one that was thinking and saying the same things. Now I have a whole, the other people have kind of joined in the fray. So yeah, the language was very much the language of dark satire, and I kind of like to speak about it in terms of a Trojan horse. The film, I grew up in Europe, but it's a very American-looking film. It deals with a European perspective on American culture as well, which is my own. And so, it's very much kind of very friendly, sugar-coated American candy looking film in the vein of, almost like 50s musicals, which is one of my inspirations, was, kind of the musicals of the 50s and escapism and entertainment. But then the language is in very harsh contrast to that. And actually deals with some very difficult topics and is packaged in a very kind of sweet and sour way to contrast with the production design and visual landscape of the film.
Speaking of contrast, Constance, you kind of really contrasted both of your characters quite dramatically. Your phrasing was very powerful as well. She was deaf. I could say anything without an analysis or an opinion. And then there's that plot twist at the end. So do you want to speak a little bit about the juxtaposition between both of your leading characters and how you arrived, how the language kind of informed that conflict?
Yeah, I think that to me sort of spoke to that idea of who we trust and who we listen to, quite literally, because the protagonist is a middle-aged speaking woman, and the whole story hinges around her giving a ride to a deaf woman who doesn't speak at all. So that whole idea of who is allowed to, who can or is allowed to speak, and then who do we trust when they do speak, based on those sort of superficial things of going to whether or not you are attractively made up or ability. It was all sort of this interconnected thing for me. And then I guess the other thing was making the film. I was very adamant from the start that for this deaf role, we cast a deaf actress, because my family has multiple members who are disabled. So I feel as even though I don't have that experience, I feel close to that experience, and wanted to respect that idea of you should cast people that are disabled when you're writing a disabled role.
I completely agree with you. So Kelsey, to kind of close with you in the writing element, you kind of used the phrase pretty recurrently, I did nothing wrong for the male lead, which is a very common phrasing that is, especially when consent conversations are in focus. Did you pull from friends' experiences, or kind of what was the lived experience element that informed your script writing process?
I mean, I think to me, it's just, I wanted to more like highlight, you don't necessarily need to be pure evil to do something bad. And that's the way the conversations are going. You know, it's like, I'm not bad, therefore I didn't do a bad thing. And that's just not true. Like you cannot be like 100% bad and do something terrible. And I think, yeah, just in the way, like she says very little and he's constantly defending himself, but not hearing himself because he's just like so blinded by needing to be good that, yeah, he just ends up saying what he wants to be true, but not listening to what she's telling him is true.
The classic kind of scenario, but I think you highlighted it really, really well. It felt very relatable. I think in the way that we all know of Veronica, I think we all know what that feeling is to be in an uncomfortable situation. So to keep it moving a little, all of you touch on social issues in your films, right? But what's really interesting is the ways and the topics that you touch on. So for $2 and For Your Consideration, you're touching on something as pervasive as performative advocacy and what that really looks like within implicit bias and corporate culture, and what that resonance really looks like. You're making that a very relatable feeling, no matter what background, no matter what our background is. And then for Mute and Affliction, you guys are dealing with, and for Blind Spot, you're dealing with perceived boundaries and kind of navigating those waters. What does that look like? And then for Dream and $2 and Blood and Glory, you're dealing with identity, how we see ourselves and how others see us. So I guess my question is, how did the social issues kind of surrounding those films and those kind of larger themes that are really impactful in the current ecosystem, how did that inspire both your research process and kind of how you crafted your story arcs, both visually and again, in much more of the relatable context? Is that heavy? Please jump in.
I guess I'll start. So for us, you know, it's so everyday, like these instances and these occurrences and conversations happen every day. And so a big part of what we were going for was making it feel very mundane, like sort of to the earlier question about visuals and craft. We were really just like, this is naturally lit and it's just like in an office, and there's a lot of stuff to kind of find in the background and context to be filled in. They're sort of like Easter eggs, but ultimately it's just like, it's a conversation. There isn't even a soundtrack. It is just like real life and wanting to live in the silence of the moments. But yeah, we knew that we were making a film that would hopefully spark conversation and probably push some buttons. And that was the intention. I think that, as Kelsey was saying, a lot of people speak about consent and sort of the Me Too movement in a very black and white way. And I think men in particular, cis straight men, have been unwilling to reflect on their own behavior. It's like, well, I'm not one of them. I don't do those things. Therefore, I'm not guilty. Like I haven't crossed lines because I didn't cross that line. Like this line that I've set is the line. I haven't done that. So I'm not bad. I don't have to like reflect on how I am a product of the culture and the patriarchy and conditioning, right? And what we wanted to do was to present a character, a man who did maybe not mean to inflict pain on anyone, did not mean to violate anyone, but the fact of the matter is that he did. And that was part of like Kelsey's world building, was that like there is no debate. The body has reacted to a violation regardless of intent. And so now what are you going to do about that? The fact that you did that. And he is, you know, he's a family man and he has a great job and he's like a good coworker. And we cast Nabil Vinyas, who's a really wonderful actor and also I think very likable as a human being. I think very relatable for a lot of men who maybe are like, I'm the nice guy, I'm like a good guy, I'm the ally. And even like his lines that he says at the beginning are very much like, I'm about to have a daughter, and like those men probably deserve what they get or what they had coming, you know. And so it was really to kind of like push men to see themselves in that, and how if they would just join in that like true shifting of the culture and the true change that we're asking for, they would not just save us, they would save themselves, right? And that is like, that's feminism, right? It's for everyone, you know.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're going for, and why we structured the film the way we did.
So I think you've showed a beautiful side of feminism, but then there's that other side, which is that queen bee mentality. And Robin, I feel like the character Veronica quite beautifully illustrated what needs to change about corporate culture, and kind of what racial insensitivity really looks like on a day-to-day. Do you want to speak a little bit to what, I mean, there's so much inspiration, I'm sure, for that particular character. I think we all know Veronica. I'd love to hear, though, a little bit more about your process and kind of what's wrong about performative advocacy. Like, because performative advocacy is such an issue, especially, and we've seen that kind of thrust into full view right now. So I would, it's undeniable, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I mean, I would say everything from $2 is just inspired by lived experience. Most of the things that are in that movie have happened to me in one way or another. I would say like Veronica is a amalgamation of a lot of annoying white ladies that I've met over the years, including my ex-wife. Yeah, so I think that like that experience is real, and I think performative allyship is super stressful and triggering, and you never know when it's gonna come up. Like, you kind of can go through life and think that you're having like an authentic interaction with somebody, and then they say like, I'm not racist, but, and then it's just like oh, you're that person. And so I just wanted to get that up on film and just like show that experience.
I think the lip gloss was a really strong symbolism. So yeah, I mean, it really had so much resonance. So in terms of, I think soundtrack though, to kind of close a little bit on soundtrack, I feel like so much of we're not always cognizant of how music is really shaping and informing story, and how it's really creating more depth and resonance of the stories that we're choosing to tell. And I thought your soundtrack, Robin, was really, really, it flowed seamlessly. And Maxie, I know you're a drummer and a musician, so maybe you both can speak a little bit to how music really helped to shape your stories.
Yeah, I used to be a musician. I mean, I still play guitar. You're never not a musician, but that's not what I focus on now. So music is like always one of my favorite parts. When I can get to the music, it's just like, oh yes, this is going to be fun. And the song "Notice It" is actually my nephew, who's like a young rapper. And I just, when I envisioned that destruction scene, because I know all of his music, because I listen to it all the time, that I knew that was a song that I wanted. And the like theme song for Rashida's theme song, I wrote the music, and then the composer wrote the lyrics for it. We hired a vocalist to sing it. And then the closeout song is from the Kulaks, which is like an all-female, Black female queer sort of funk soul punk band. And so yeah, they're just dope, and I love their music.
Yeah, I know it complemented story beautifully. I come from a jazz background, so I'm a bit of a sound nerd myself. But go ahead.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Maxie, please.
Now I just can't wait to watch Robin's. I feel like, well, drummers, yeah, but whatever. I think everything should have music added. I feel like it's so overlooked in the process of making a film. So again, I'm cheating because mine has to be set to the music, but I respect a filmmaker who takes the time to make important choices with the sound design, because it's just such an like a freebie of accessing someone's emotional center like you're getting a little cheat code into their soul. Like otherwise musicals, we'd be like, whoa, what a dumb story, but we fucking love them because the music gets us, even me. So yeah, I can't wait to check out all of your guys' films and like pay attention to that.
So to quickly, I know we're a little pressed for time and I want to hopefully open it up to other questions. If you guys could fill into the chat any questions you may have, whether that's on YouTube or on Zoom, we'll be able to see it through. But to quickly wrap, what's next for all of you? I know the COVID hiatus has been hard on everyone, but I'd love to hear what's next and how we can follow your work. Please share that with the group.
I can go. I'm currently working on a feature, just the writing process. Who knows, how actually the goal of making a feature comes to life, but I'm just writing it with Aldo, my co-writer, who I also worked on the short with. And I am horrible at social media and I suck at it, but I will hopefully, I have my Instagram, I have the website for the film. So Papia Al is my Insta, and the film's website is FYC Film, and I'm posting updates to the site. So
I'll go.
So,
So I'm in post-production on a short called This Old House, which is it's about an aging diva's reality comes into question when she wakes to find her house has been placed on the market. And it's a digital short that's being executive produced by 20th Century Digital, and it'll be screening on Hulu in October.
Oh,
So,
congratulations. That's
I
exciting.
just did the music yesterday. So
Oh, very cool.
Music, yes.
So I just relocated from Seattle to Albuquerque, my hometown. So I'm currently working with Albuquerque Film and Music Experience. And today is actually our last day in the festival. So I'm really looking forward to completing all of my writing projects and actually producing my own work through Draska Road Productions, which is based in Seattle. And you can find out what I'm doing on kiraseipler.com.
Cool. Anyone else want to quickly recap please jump in.
Sure. I want to say two things. One, right now we're trying to do an event with period.org. So if you don't know this organization, please look them up. They've designated October 10th as the National Period Day. So they're having an amazing event. And so you don't want to miss out on this. So please, please follow them, learn more about them. Because they're really doing the work about dealing with period poverty within this country. Because when we think about this, we always think about countries overseas. We don't think about how big of a deal this is in America. And what else? You can follow me at Sati Films, or you can follow our film at Blood and Glory Film. We have more screenings coming up. And if you know anybody or any organization that can benefit from a story like this, we would love to do those screenings as well. So just hit us up. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I am back to work now on set on a series, which is a bit of a new world given the COVID. It's a lot of masks and a lot of face shields and a lot of sanitizing. And hopefully I'll be shooting another thing probably next year as it's a bit more complicated right now to make anything. But yeah, that's my current situation is I'm back to work in Toronto on a series.
Kelsey, Christina?
So I have another short on the circuit that's just starting. We'll see what 2021 looks like. That's called Game Brunch. It's a comedy. And Kelsey and I are writing a horror comedy feature right now that we hope will be our third feature for our production company. You can find us at congestedcat.com or at congestedcat on social media. We also have our own handles. If you Google my name, you'll find me.
Same, but we're definitely under Congested Cat. That's probably the fastest.
Maxie, did you go? Did we miss anyone? I think, did everyone get to speak about their handles? Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm a comedian at Mad Maxie, so whenever live comedy is out again, I would love to see you LA folks. But other than that, Mick and I are just cranking out some music to put up on Spotify. So if you search Mick and Maxie, anything you want to use for any film royalty free, we would love to support your projects.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing your insights with us. Thank you to Imagine This for putting this together. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you for joining us. And to my Latinx friends, oi pessoa, muito obrigado por tudo. Just because it's Latinx Heritage Month, and I have to say something. Thank you again. It was so great to connect with all of you. I wish you nothing but the best in your next work. You can follow me on social media at Sam Reitz Close Up or at Millennial Ethics. Millennial, 2 N's. Common misconception. But thank you so much. I hope you realized the overlap between art and policy and took something great away from this chat. So all the best to you, and tune in to the rest of Imagine This. It goes until October 4th. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.